Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Canadian Gamers. It's a sad, sad day. I'm all by myself. Yeah, Steven is ditching me this time round because he's busy being a parent. Pshaw, he should try working a million hours a day. Well, you know what? Actually, that's pretty much what he's doing. But I too have been ridiculously busy, and so I decided for this podcast, I'm going to just do probably a special topic and talk about one thing that's been in the news because, to be really honest with all of you, I have no clue what's going on right now in the wonderful world of video games. So, for all I know, Nintendo could have just purchased Microsoft, and, well, I'm not going to talk about it because I haven't had a chance to check any news. But to be fair, I don't think you guys come for these podcasts because of the news. I think you're here because you want to hear, usually, Stephen and I, our witty banter. So, today, the biggest thing that obviously happened in entertainment that I am aware of is the fact that Spider-Man will be returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So what the hell does that mean and what's going on with all that? If you haven't heard, the big news is essentially that Sony Pictures and, well, what amounts to Disney, because they own Marvel, they've come to an agreement that will allow Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, meaning that his first appearance will be in Captain America, the Civil War, or whatever they called it, I forget, but Captain America 3. And so, yeah, Spider-Man is going to be making an appearance in that movie, his first appearance, and then that will be in 2016, I believe it is. And then in 2017, there will be a brand new solo Spider-Man movie. However, Marvel Cinematic Universe characters could appear in that movie, which is really interesting. So they're tying these things all together, and Marvel is going to have pretty much creative control from what I understand it, at least in terms of these movies and fleshing everything together with the Marvel Cinematic Universe officially. But Sony will retain the license or the rights to the movie and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, the big news, obviously, is the fact that Spider-Man will now be technically in the third Avengers movie. That's entirely possible, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what's going to happen. So that's pretty damn cool, especially for longtime fans of Spider-Man like me. This is a really, really, really big deal. But the thing is, what I would like to know is how in the hell are they actually going to do this? Because really, we had Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man for the first trilogy. Then we had, I think his name is Andrew Garfield, something like that, for 2 movies. And then it's like, here we are. So what are they going to do for that solo movie? And the fact that Spider-Man is being reintroduced, or well, not really reintroduced, but introduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Civil War is kind of interesting because right now, none of the characters that Marvel currently has established really fit the bill for a Civil War type of storyline in such a way that follows the comic books. Because the big thing there was that the government wanted to have essentially a roster or a file of who these vigilantes were so that they would be held accountable, much like what happens with police officers. If a police officer goes around and starts shooting and killing people, they are held accountable for their actions. And so they wanted to do the same thing with superheroes. And so the big thing was obviously that Spider-Man unmasks and it causes this huge, oh my gosh. And anyways, blah, blah, blah. So the thing is, like, what I've always been wondering is exactly how the heck they were going to do that, or they were planning on doing that with a cinematic universe where no one's really wearing a mask. Captain America, everyone knows who he is. The Black Widow, she doesn't wear a mask. No one might know who she is, but it's irrelevant. Hawkeye, same deal. You have the only one who really fit the bill was sort of the Hulk, but that didn't really make any sense. I mean, it's Tony Stark. Everyone knows he's Iron Man. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't make sense. Like, how the hell are you going to do a Civil War story unless you dramatically change the context of what the Civil War storyline was going to be about? And now we have Spider-Man, so he could be this, vigilante character. But again, I just don't know how the hell they're going to do this, like how they're going to approach this in such a way that's going to be entertaining and awesome and everything. Now, I do have complete faith in Marvel because, well, they haven't screwed up yet. As far as I'm concerned, the movies have actually been phenomenal and they're getting actually better as it goes on. So I do have faith that they're going to do this justice, but I'm just not entirely sure how they're going to do this. And as a big Spider-Man fan, I tried to speculate and come up with ideas, but I came up with nothing because I truly do not know how they could do this in such a way that would be entertaining because, it's going to be a new actor behind that mask. And I know we don't need another origin story. Oh God, we do not need another origin story. But at the same time, or by the same token, are you really going to care? You know what I mean? Like the mask comes off. Yay! I don't really care because I'm not invested in the character as much as I am with Tobey Maguire's character, with Andrew Garfield's character, or with any of the current Avengers lineup. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not entirely sure how they're going to do this, unless they pretend he's already an established character. But even then, I don't know how the audience is going to react to that. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that goes. And the other big question mark is going to be for the standalone movie, because that one too, I'm really curious to see how they're going to go about making another solo Spider-Man movie, because we've already seen, like, not everything obviously, but we've seen a lot already. So I'm not entirely sure how they're going to go about doing that. And the saving grace there, though, that I can imagine is the fact that if they are allowed to use other characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then potentially they could just make it like Thor or Captain America, where it simply ties in to the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think that's most likely that's where they're going to go. That's what's going to happen. That's what I would imagine. So what about you guys? What do you think? What do you think is going to happen with that? What do you think is what's up with that, man? I would like to hear your thoughts and opinions on that. And so I guess moving on to what will essentially be the crux of this this podcast, or as long as, well, it'll be for as long as I can at least talk. So hopefully the podcast will be at least like 20 minutes is what I'm going to, aim for. I'm hoping. Anyways, and that is, why do you retro? We've talked about this in the past, but it's becoming more and more, I think, mainstream, if that makes sense. Retro gaming is really in at a level that I think it's never been at before. I think a lot of that has to do with indie games, and also the fact that video games today, the budgets have ballooned to just ridiculous proportions, that companies don't feel safe taking risks like they used to. Because, well, you make one major flop that costs you millions and millions and millions of dollars. Well, it can bankrupt the whole damn company. And so I think, like, for a lot of us out there, or at least me, retro, it's still special to me because it sort of opens these doors to very, imaginative or creative games that obviously I haven't experienced every retro game ever made, and I never will. And I think that's where, like, the biggest appeal for me comes from, is that today I just find that the games are just not taking as many risks. And naturally, I mean, I completely understand why that is. Sure, we still get some, incredible epics and things like that, but those original new IPs, wacky, silly, like crazy, we're not going to get a Booger Man, today. And so that's one of the major reasons why I like going back to these retro games. They're just, I don't know, I just find them so much more creative. And when I say retro, I'm not talking about like Atari days. I mean, you could technically go to the PlayStation 2 and you can still see some really creative, really unique offerings on that platform. And doesn't stop there either. We also have what I like to call the new age retro scene, which is where games are being made to sort of look or feel like retro games. And some of those are very cool. there's been a lot of retro related games that have been doing that as of late. And what I really like is that homebrew scene. Those guys that are working on like Neo Geo MVS games, like the NG Dev team, or I think they're called Neo Blitz, or Neo Bits, I think that was it. The guys who did Knight's Chance. What was really great there is that they're using retro hardware as their basis. So they have all the same limitations that the original developers had. Obviously, they have a lot more technology and a lot more resources today, or access to resources. I'm not talking about money, but they're, with the internet and things like that, it's really easy for them to set up, say, like a message board and just pass ideas back and forth, maybe even some assets, things like that. That's what I'm referring to. But these guys, like, they're actually working harder than a lot of modern day developers do, because it ain't easy working on a retro platform, let me tell you. And last year in particular, man, I picked up a lot. I picked up a lot of indie releases or homebrew games on the TurboGrafx 16. I picked up one on the Neo Geo. This year, I'm looking at picking up one or two on the Neo Geo, depending on what gets released this year. So, I really dig the retro scene. And then it's just besides the reasons I've already mentioned, that's just the fun factor. These are games that I can return to time and time again because they're just so much fun to play. Like, I can't tell you guys how much fun I'm having with Saturn Day right now. It's been a blast. And that Saturn Day led into me just having fun with some Sega CD games. I started with just some very basic stuff like Echo the Dolphin, Sonic CD, and then I grabbed the Arcade Classics collection. And then from there, I was like, you know what? I really would love to show you guys, or at least talk about some of the FMV games, but I absolutely suck at these things, guys. Like, suck at them. I'm horrible, and I don't like them. Well, that's not true. It's not like I despise all of them, but most of them are just not for me. And so it's so hard to review a game where you just like totally don't like it. Like Prize Fighter is a great example. Really awesome concept, and I am going to review that game, but like getting footage beyond the first character, yeah, that probably is not going to happen. So it's going to be a really garbage review in terms of the video presentation, because I cannot finish that first character, and I'm going to explain all the different reasons why. But yeah, so anyways, I started off with the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective as the first look at what an FMV game was, because that was the first one. And that's another thing that I really like with retro, is that it gives me this platform where I can show all of you like certain games that really had an impact on me, or games that I just think you should go and check out because they're awesome, or by the same, by the other side of the coin there, the games that you should stay far, far, far away from. And so, yeah, I really enjoy that. So it's great being able to talk about something that you're really passionate about, and then also, for all the other reasons I mentioned, that they're actually fun, they're very creative, and there's like this new avenue for creative minds to get into, and it's just been really awesome. And just going back for a little bit on other, plans and stuff that I have, I'm also going to start reviewing, after a little more of the Sega CD stuff, I'm going to start reviewing, or maybe I'll even throw it in at the same time, some Neo Geo games. I had a really, really awesome weekend playing some really great Neo Geo games. I played Metal Slug 3, 4, and 5, and I'm currently playing Cross Swords, which is a really great Neo Geo game that I never actually played before. And this is kind of cool. It's an interesting little side note here, just to let you guys know. But on the Neo Geo message boards or forums, or whatever you want to call them, I started a thread where I asked people, hey, I run a YouTube channel, and I'm just kind of curious to hear, if there are any games, hidden gems, if you will, for the platform that you think would make for good videos. And it's interesting because I got a lot of really great suggestions, and the people there, they're right. There's a hell of a lot of great games on the Neo Geo that nobody knows about. I mean, just as a whole, you have to be an arcade fan just to know about Neo Geo. I mean, most people know about Metal Slug, the King of Fighters, some of like Samurai Showdown, stuff like that. But SNK or SNK Playborn now hasn't really done much mainstream stuff. I mean, the last big release we got was the King of Fighters 13. And since then, they've just been focusing entirely on mobile. And so, as each new generation comes around, they're getting less and less known. And that's so sad. But anyways, yeah, so they gave me some good suggestions. One of the suggestions that they actually gave me was this game Crossed Swords. So as we all do, I looked it up on YouTube to see if it would be my cup of tea, and it looked really interesting. So I saw that someone was selling a copy for a really good price on the boards. So I asked if I could purchase it. The person said yes, and well, the game's here. And I'm trying it out, and I'm having a really, really good time with it. It's a fantastic game, and man, the two-player is awesome. And that's what I'm going to try and show you guys. I'm going to try and get a friend of mine over, and we'll do some recording with that. And then after that, I think I'm going to probably show you guys the two last Blade games, and maybe do an instructional video on showing you how to install the UniBIOS in the Neo Geo MVS one slot that I have. It's nothing complex like whatsoever. So that's pretty much why I retro. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Just a little discussion saying that I absolutely love retro games. Some of them for their simplicity, some of them just because they're just so much fun. A lot of the times because they were just so creative. And also because, well, it's different. And I love the aspect that so many people today are making Sega Genesis games, like I said, Neo Geo games, all these other games. I think that's just bloody brilliant. And, well, it's so different. So my question to you guys today is, it's a repetition, I guess. It's repeated from, I think it was a podcast or a vlog I did a long time ago about why you retro. But it's fun to do these things every couple of months and get some new feedback on people who haven't, either they joined the site or the channel recently, or if they haven't left a comment before. So I'm going to ask you one last time. Why do you retro?